I think we're just gonna hop straight into it. You cool with hopping straight into it, dude?
Hop, 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 hop. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ayoo Chill podcast. It's June in Jersey, and today I have a crazy guest for you today. I don't think he needs any introduction, but my boy, go ahead, take a couple minutes, seconds, let the people know who you are.
Cool. Artist professionally in the music world, you can call me Sgar. My real name's Greg. Doing a lot of weird like Web3 stuff. So when I have to do like in real life, I have to say that a lot. In real life, my name is Greg, but otherwise it's Sgar. But I'm a musician, artist. Mostly that's what I do. I have a progressive metal band called 100,000. My own solo project, Sgar. And an alternative dance electronic duo with my buddy Ming called Ash Nova. And I produce, write, songwrite that is, and perform anywhere that people want to see us.
Sick, dude. So, dude, I want to hop in right into your origins, dude. I want to know, where do you originate from? Like, where are you originally from?
In terms of the world, geography?
In terms of the world,
Nice.
geography,
I'm like right
ethnicity,
over.
too?
Oh yeah. No. Today. I'm like right around the corner. I grew up in Roseland, New Jersey.
Roseland.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Good
dope.
old Essex County action.
Yeah.
And I grew up there, still hanging there. It's kind of hard to. I mean, the plans to get away as soon as possible. But at the same time, every time I want to get away, I'm like, it's too cool here. The food's too good.
Oh, the food's great.
Too many cool people. But I don't know. I mean, Montclair's right down the hill. That's like my joint. And then
Word.
Ani Ramen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know
Anywhere
Ani
there's
Ramen.
food, Louise,
Yeah,
that's
dude.
where I'm going. And it's kind of hard to get away from that.
Yeah, dude. Where would you be, like, preferably, if you wanted to, like, just pick up everything?
I mean, I'm cool here, but the idea of always I snowboard a lot. So Utah is like this hits home to me.
Utah.
Not for full time, but at least
You've been there before?
Yes, a couple times.
Word. How is it out there?
Beautiful. A lot of Mormons. A lot of mountains. Mormons,
Oh,
mountains. Mountains,
Mormons.
Mormons.
Utah. What's the city there that they?
Salt Lake.
Salt Lake City. You ever see the Book of Mormon musical?
No.
Oh, dude, you gotta
Still
watch
haven't
it,
seen
dude.
it.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
If you're into crude humor,
Yeah.
that's the thing to go to, bro. It's sick.
Nice.
Dope, dude. So, how did you get involved with music?
Sure, involved with it. That's a long story, and it came back. I think I'm 8 years old, maybe. My dad. I'll start with my dad in terms of where the inspiration came from. He he introduced me to hair metal back and then, right? So hair metal. Grew up on all the hair metal stuff. The Crew, Motley Crue, anything hair metal. I could name bands forever, but everything hair metal into everything as 80s metal as it could be, as 70s metal, and pretty much as niche as you could be. To my cousin who was in this, one of the originators of grindcore called Napalm Death.
Word.
So I had a little bit of this upbringing in strictly metal, and I always loved listening to it. We'd play in the car when I was like 5. I remember all these specific things with him. And then one day he started taking guitar lessons because he wanted me to be inspired to play guitar. So I was like, oh, cool. So my dad started to play guitar. He went to like this college at night, and he would start taking. It was horrible, but it was just good enough to play some songs that we always loved, and that got me inspired to play guitar a little bit. He bought me some. My mom's boyfriend Jim also bought me a guitar at the same time, so he played as well. So it was and right about that same time, my uncle had this beautiful old classic vintage drum kit in his place in Long Island. And then like a week after I started playing guitar I was trying to dabble with the guitar from my dad, I picked up some drumsticks there, and I was like, wow, I could play a little beat. I was like 8 or 9 years old. So I just started to take some lessons from local peeps. My first guitar teacher was Sam Frisch from Cash, from the EDM.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
you know them.
Yeah.
They're from Roseland too. Crazy.
Oh, shit. No way.
Yeah, this weird town, little town. There's so many people from there. And then my drum teacher was the fifth Beatle. He played on Love Me Do. His name's Andy White, and he died. But he was this old Scottish dude in his 80s, this dusty ass dude.
No way.
Yeah, and he would come. He would live in Caldwell.
Wow.
It was so weird. Him and his wife were crazy. His wife was the voice. I hope she's still alive. His wife is/was the voice of Mariel from Courage the Cowardly Dog.
No way.
Yeah, and he's the fifth, just sitting there in Caldwell, New Jersey, being the fifth member, unofficial, of the Beatles. and he would just just go to people's house and just teach them drum lessons. He's this old dude, Scottish, and he would just rip on the kit, just a little dusty dude.
Dude, that's so
awesome.
insane.
You would call him up to like schedule lessons, and then his wife would answer. It's like, "Hello," just like Mario. It was hysterical.
Bro, you know, I'm actually like, I love Courage the Cowardly Dog. It's actually one of my favorite cartoons growing up. And funny enough, dude.
No.
You see that?
That's
at the bottom over
Did
there?
they know that?
I guess I'll have to show the camera.
Get up. Come on, you got to see this. This wasn't planned. You got courage over there. Man, he's looking pretty cowardly.
Yeah, dude. That's actually from my favorite episode from Courage is when he turns into an eggplant. So the whole thing is Eustace in that episode. I think Eustace planted a eggplant and then he was trying to take care of it. But Courage was all like, yo, this is demonic. There's like a whole army. And, you know,
Dude, that show scared me when I was young. You know,
It's
I
an
loved
amazing
it.
game.
I
I
loved
loved
it.
it too.
I couldn't watch more than like 20 minutes of it because I'd just be like, oh.
And it was mad progressive for its time, dude.
sure.
I remember I feel like I've talked about this on a podcast before. It's funny because I remember the episode, I'll never forget, where you had like the two lesbian cats.
Gotcha.
And one of them was running away from being domestically abused by her boyfriend.
Okay.
And the episode ends with like, you know, her and her girlfriend like getting away. And I was like, damn. And I felt like I felt that when I was little, like watching that shit, you know?
I didn't even, I mean, could we even, you understood it too at the time.
It was weird. Like I didn't like. It's funny because again, like I didn't think it was weird seeing like two girl cartoon cats.
Right.
But I was like, cool. They're in love. They're doing their thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then also, you know, like seeing like I'm like, yo, that's an abusive boyfriend. Like I knew what abusive boyfriend was.
Gotcha.
And like it's weird because like, you know, I could apply it to like real life because then, you know,
Right.
I kind of had a weird upbringing too.
Okay.
So like, you know, I've seen some shit.
Right.
And so, you know, when I've seen like domestic disputes when I was little, I was like, oh shit.
Gotcha.
Like Courage taught me about this shit. I know how to.
Damn right.
I know how to handle myself.
That
you know?
hits in the feels. I like it.
But dude, that's so crazy. So she was the voice of Muriel.
Yeah, it was crazy. She would answer the phone. It would sound just like her. It's like, yeah.
That's wild. So the fifth Beatle, and they were married?
Yeah.
That's wild, bro.
Yeah.
I guess like talents attract, right?
Somehow. He
But-
told me the story. I don't remember how, but it was, yeah, exactly. Talents always seem to attract like that.
And they lived in Roseland, or his studio was out in
Caldwell.
Roseland? Caldwell.
Yeah.
That's wild. And
Crazy.
nobody knows that.
No, not too many.
That's absolutely insane. So you were taking drum lessons from him?
Yes.
And so, but you were also playing guitar.
Yes.
So what other instruments do you know how to play?
I get by on the keys just to be able to write, because that's what I do now mostly is write, and I mean bass just because you can play guitar, and that's about it. Nothing, you know, just whatever you could see in a rock band setting, you know. So no saxophone, that would be cool.
That would be cool. Actually, our upstairs neighbor I ran into him yesterday, and he just told us he just started picking up sax like the past like couple weeks, and he's like older, and I was just like, dude, that's
Sick,
fucking
man.
dope, bro. Like it's never too late to ever like as a musician, you know, like you just gotta put the time in. You gotta put the time. You gotta put the practice in.
For sure.
But speaking about time and practice, so when were you like? Do you remember the first band you joined? Like, what was your musical journey like?
For sure. Started with my some of my two best friends, Pete DiMatteo. You probably haven't met him yet. You should meet him. He's a cool dude.
Word.
And Gino, like a little brother of me. And we would come home after school, and we start playing some metal music. We loved at the time, like our band was called Forbidden Territory, and we were one of the top local bands in the area. We would play with all the big metalcore bands.
And what was your age around here?
This was in high school. So me and Petey are the same age. So we were about 16. Gino was like 13. And
Sick.
yeah, 16, 17, around that. And yeah, so we just started playing covers of like Kill Switch, Engage, Bullet for My Valentine, Metallica stuff, and anything else that was metalcore at that time, Asking Alexandria, and weird times. And we would play with these guys. We played with Seven Dust. We played with Asking Alexandria. We All That Remains. Some of our heroes, some of our favorites. And we did pretty well for a little bit in the local area. And that next I got into this band called Psycha, and it was a female fronted band. We did really well in the New York City area. We would, Webster Hall, we sold out ourselves. And
That's sick, dude.
Good times, yeah. And we had a deal with Manhattan Center, which is the Hammerstein Ballroom. So
Yeah.
crazy. I was in college when this happened. I was I was 19, 18. I was 19 when we signed, and I went to school at Stevens in Hoboken. So,
What were you studying at Stevens?
music, right?
Oh,
It's an
nice.
engineering school, but
Word.
I went there because we could talk about this a little bit later. But Carlos Alomar was there. He was the reason why I went. He's David Bowie's guitarist.
Oh,
So
shit.
so nobody knows. Another thing nobody knows, but I'm an old soul in that sense. So I always wanted to. He's Carlos. To me, it's like every guitarist knows Carlos. So he was just there. He's just the artist, the teacher, the guitar teacher there. So him and I just got a great relationship when we were there. But so we had a deal at Hammerstein, and when I was in school, I chose that school because it was right next to the city. Obviously, I could go back and forth. I was playing every weekend. I was in and out recording and writing. So I was I remember I would be looking outside of our classroom, and it'd be like 8 p.m. and I'd just know I have to be there in just like an hour. So I would skip class or just leave early, and I would just go and record and fulfill the needs that we had to do for the deal, like record this record and whatnot.
And how did that deal come about? Like, I know, like, you're explaining everything, but like,
right, because that always gets left out, right? At the documentaries, they're just at the garden all of a sudden. But it just consistent consistently saying yes to opportunity of playing this show, meeting this person, and saying yes to this writing session, and then meeting this person, gets introduced to this and gets introduced to that, because that was just the nature of how, in my opinion, how you just keep climbing up the pole to get more opportunity for yourself. So we were introduced to, there was a writer that was there writing for, like, I forgot the pop star's name, but some pop star at the time, and then he wanted to write with us. We wrote with him. Great. His location was Manhattan Center at the time, so we were introduced to the team through that songwriter. Who that songwriter wound up just going like AWOL. But thanks for the intro, bro. And so that merited cool results. We could go on forever about that, but so. The cool part and the experience for me was just the balance of college and that, because I always wanted to go to school, and I always wanted to fulfill everything that I could and see how much I could put on my plate at once, because I'm weird like that. I'm sure you are too. Creatives like us, we at least me, I'm sure you too. We do better by the more that we have on our plates. Like when I don't have a lot on my plate at once, I go into like, oh fuck, do I do? So the more that I like to bring on. It makes me do better and makes me more motivated and excited. So I was like, let me try to balance college with this record deal. That was the dream at the time. So we had the whole facility to ourselves, and I would go from school to there, and then I would fulfill everything. I would record into the middle of the night, and then we would come home. I would come home meaning my car in my parking lot, because I commuted at 4 a.m. I would start walking back or longboarding down Times Square in the middle of the night because nobody's there. It was awesome, and you would just see the garbage men picking up the garbage, because their day is starting, mine's ending. And I would get into the PATH train, and then the birds would be chirping when I come back up, and it was just a beautiful thing. I was so tired, but I knew that it was worth it. I was doing something that I loved. And I would go right to my car in the parking lot and sleep for an hour, and this would be 2 to 3 times a week. So I would get there at 6 and then wake up at 7, so I could go up the stairs to get an omelet real quick, learn how to make a cool omelet from the girl Helen. And then I would fall asleep in class a lot of the time, and my friend would just get the notes for me, Dave Bellman. You know Bellman.
Yeah.
So he would get the notes for me, and so just having a great network around me with friends and everybody supporting me, and I was supporting them. And that ultimately, I was able to graduate great in honors and stuff, and do crazy shit with this band. We hooked up with the Lady Gaga crew. We did with the American Idol crew. It was a cool ride. Then we split after Psyche, and then did my own stuff. This is where this whole thing began with Sgar.
So actually, like, tell me a little bit about you linking up with like the Lady Gaga crew and like American Idol. Like, how was that? Like, how did that even come around?
Right. The singer at the time in the band, girl, she always liked the guitarist from Gaga. His name's Kareem Jesus, and he and then how did that happen? Oh, because we got linked up with Konstantin Maroulis, the American Idol dude. He knew the band because we were this glam rock band, and he's the dude from Rock of Ages, head guy, the lead role, and one of the most successful, I guess, American Idol people. So he heard our stuff. He was like, "Hey, let's do a." He reached out somehow, not to me, someone, the singer of the band, said, "Hey, let's do a duet. Ozzy Osbourne, Lita Ford, and Close My Eyes Forever." It's a cool '80s song, so sounds good to me. Let me introduce you to my friend Kareem, the guitarist from Gaga. So it was just one of those things that we always wanted to meet this guy because we worshipped Gaga at the time and everything the whole team did, and he just fell into our lap. Like, it was crazy. So just so happened, let me introduce you to my friend. So walked in the room, and then that was a cool friendship at the time, and yeah, so that's how that happened. So from Constantine.
Word. So I'm kind of interested because we're kind of like moving in, and I kind of want to start like diving deep into some of this. Like,
Sure.
So what do you? Because I mean, like from what you're saying, and especially this is like during your college years, right?
Right.
So you're anywhere in between what, like 18 to like 21, somewhere around there. So like, I mean, that's pretty like successful, I would say, for especially that age and someone who's traveling and doing shows like that. Like, how many shows would you be playing like a week?
At least one a week.
Word.
At some gross mice-infested dive bar, or up to Webster Hall and Gramercy and any of those places. So, yeah, I mean, it depends on how you define success, because when I was just so young and had no idea what I was doing, I just kept going. And I would have, luckily, to bring this back to the school, because Carlos Alomar, Bowie's guitarist, him and I just, we clicked instantly. And because the demographic of engineers that go there, they don't understand or have the respect or really care about Carlos or somebody like that something on that caliber for the music world in that we live in, that has done in it. So him and I clicked instantly. So he was my mentor, still is, for life, and I would just ask him and throw ideas off of him and just like beg to him and weep to him, like, what do I do? Like, so he showed me like the etiquette of how to be an artist and how to be how to react to circumstances in the studio, and what to take on, like push and pull with that.
Give me some examples of what he would say.
So, Greg, say yes to everything and then figure out the no later. It's like, all right, Carlos, that sounds pretty damn good. And that, and a lot of other shit. Never have demon weed, never do any gin, and never have a loose woman. That's great. Advice. That's great. Advice. Like, that was the first thing he's ever said to me. I was like, yeah. So tuck your balls back and get ready for some rock and roll. Like, okay, Carlos. I mean, this is a dude that wrote Fame with John Lennon and David Bowie in the room and James Brown. Like,
that's insane.
And
did he ever tell you any stories or anything like that?
Yeah. There's a lot of stories.
I'm down to hear some if you're down to tell us some.
Shit. Okay, one thing I don't want to. God forbid he hears this, but one thing that I'm honored to have been in that situation when Bowie died. When Bowie died, he was the night before Bowie died. Sorry, the day of that Bowie died, I had a show at Maxwell's in Hoboken. Carlos was supposed to come the night before. He texted me when Bowie died and said, "Sorry, man, can't come." Bowie news. I'm like, what happened? Dead. So I'm like, oh, fuck, this is crazy. He left school for like 2 weeks or so, a week or 2 weeks, I forget. He came back, and I was supposed to have my Friday lesson with him. Or at the time, I switched to Monday. Right, so Monday lesson with him, and then he just goes, he shuts the door, and he just goes, come on. We would always go out to lunch, and he goes, you know what, Greg? I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do any guitars. I don't want to talk to anybody. Rolling Stone's coming to me. Every magazine, everybody, every publisher is asking me questions in the world. All I want to do is talk to you. And I was just like, okay, this is arguably the biggest artist who's ever lived on the planet. And Bowie, that is. And his MD, his right-hand man, Carlos, is talking to me as just leveling with me and just wants to talk to me about shit, just life. And that was what really connected us together. So we just went out to lunch, or a typical sushi spot in Hoboken called Illusions. And we would just like 11 a.m. hot sake, too much sake always in the morning, and he would just go on and go on about his good old days with Bowie and James Brown and Brandon Flowers, how he fucked him in the ass. It's so funny, but yeah, just there's too many to name. But it was more about just the close relationship that I had and still have, but more so then because we would see each other every day in college with Carlos, and he's one of the greatest guitarists who's ever lived. Uptown Funk is one of his most recent successes, which I'm sure everybody in the whole world has heard.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I mean, just there's plenty of stuff, but. Yeah, that was he taught me basically how to deal with every situation I was dealt with, getting thousands of dollars stolen from me in the band at the label we were at Manhattan Center, knowing how to prepare for things and just how to just the proper etiquette in the professional music industry.
What do you think is like one of the biggest things that has stuck with you from what he's taught you?
I honestly, the thing that stuck with me the most still to this day is just say yes to everything and figure out the no later. Like he's like, no is the most powerful word in the whole language of life, pretty much. Like, no, that changes everything. That conversation ends. No. But when you, which is on reserve for things. But if in terms of opportunity, just say yes and then figure that out. What comes the no later, and that you have to know. That made me just go, well, there's a lot of things that could not go too well. You can say yes to a lot of things that maybe aren't good for you. So I think that's more of advice for somebody who's growing and evolving. So you learn quickly how to know what to say no to. By saying yes to a lot of things, you learn to fail quick, and you learn to love to fail, because the few successes when you said yes come into fruition, and you learn what to say no to in the future. So I still like to say yes to a lot of things, and just have fun with it, and not overpromise or anything, manage expectations, but just to say yes. So that's the best advice that I got from him, I think. Because there's so much.
Word, no, for sure. So like you're going through college, you graduated, right?
Yes.
So during this whole time, like what was the driving force for you? Were you just looking to like be a famous guitarist? Were you trying to just like make a famous band?
Right.
And I assume like things cut out with the label, right?
Yeah.
So like what was that? Because you said that label signed what band that you were at?
Psycho.
Word.
Yeah.
So did Psycho break up like before or after the label was done?
Soon after. There was a lot of turmoil and like interrelationships with the band and stuff. Basically, they stole a lot of money from us. They hired. I mean, they were the people themselves. They were fine people in terms of the label, the owners. They were just so old school. So cobwebs on the whole, the operative nature of it. So they hired. It's just incompetence. So can't get mad at them. But they hired a third party label that we had to. Inside of the publishing company, inside of the facility that we had to be a part of and distribute our music. And this guy was slimy. He snorting all of our money. Like I think we sold, I remember 5,287 or 89, if I always forget, records on Twitter in 3.5 months.
That's sick.
Because we didn't think it at the time, and because we knew that because at the time our drummer was interning at Atlantic Records, so he had an account with Nielsen SoundScan, which is the company where it holds all the records to every record sold. So he was able to see how many we sold and how much bullshit that the label was telling us that we sold. Like, oh, we only sold 50 records. Oh, you sold 200, but then next week you only sold 50. You guys gotta do better. Never saw a dime from that. That's like $30,000 minimum,
So for the people who don't know, like how much money are you making with each record sale?
Very subjective. Back then, streaming wasn't existent.
Mm-hmm.
It was just starting to. So everything would iTunes was the main thing, right? Downloads, and so I don't know, you get like 20 something cents out of it. So if you were with a label, because they take it always depends, but 50 or 70% of the mechanicals. So so we didn't see a dime. They took everything. It's typical label experience, and we were so young. We had a hotshot lawyer, but a hotshot lawyer missed one thing that said everything had to be recoupable too. Like in one, there were two contracts: the recording and the publishing. They contradicted each other, so it was just a mess. But learned so much from that, and
So what was like the biggest thing you learned from that?
To not trust literally anybody. Not to get overhyped about things, because when you kind of get blinded by hype, you kind of got to keep a level head a lot of times. I'm still learning that every day, because when something cool happens, I like to get hyped. It's fun, but you can't get overhyped, because you get blindsided by the things that come with the hype. You know, it might be going too soon or whatnot. Meaning you might be acting too soon on the hype or whatever the opportunity is. I learned that contracts also, like these labels, the whoever you're signing, it doesn't mean anything, because they'll still screw you. They will still, if it says the contract you must do this, or this will happen, even if you do it, or if they say they'll do it for you, they still won't do it for you. And it's like, do you have like 30 grand to spend? You have 10 grand to spend to get like the same amount back, like just to break even. It's not worth it at that point. So I've learned that contracts still, it's if you think you're safe with a contract, you're still not. You still have to watch your ass. And
So what's some advice you could give to someone who's first signing on to their first label?
Make sure that they are more hyped about your shit than you are hyped about your shit. Because whoever's working for you or with you, manager, producer, label, which the farther we go on in life, in this industry, labels become more obsolete. But whoever you're signing with, the partner is, they have to be more emotionally motivated and attached to your project or your brand and your music, whatever your art is, as you are. Or else, like, how do you, like, if I wasn't attached to it, like that, when we don't do our shit, when we don't hit our goals and stuff, because it's not because I'm too tired, it's because I'm too busy, it's because you didn't put the time into it, because you're not motivated to do it. Like, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it. So you have to have somebody who will do that. I'll call someone at 2 a.m, and then I'll be hyped, and they answer, and like they get hyped with me, and we have some news, or we're just talking, or we're trying to figure something out. Like somebody who's gonna be there, ride or die with you. You know, if they call me or whoever at 2 a.m, I'm answering if it's something that is pressing. So the best advice I could give is that make sure that whoever that you're partnering with is just as stoked as you are about your shit.
Sweet. So how was the aftermath? Well, not aftermath, but like, so what ended up making you cut ties with them? Because I know they stole and everything,
Right.
but like, you always hear how it's like almost like a dirty breakup whenever it comes to these labels.
Right.
So what was that process like? Like, where were you at the point? Like, what made you be like, okay, we're getting out of this?
We just literally stopped showing up. We had the keys to the kingdom, but we shifted the studio to, I mean, we fulfilled our deal in a sense. We recorded the record and whatnot. They did nothing with it. We did, but they just didn't have the means to. And it was a beautiful facility and whatnot, but we just had to figure out, is it worth just wasting time and having false expectations set on us here? Not worth it. So we just shifted and just started writing at one of the other members' places, and that went on for a little bit. Then we had to kick my little brother Gino out, because not my decision. Then we had to kick the drummer out, and then because the band was shifting into some other thing, and it was just, I'm just sitting there like, I love this stuff, but I stayed there a little too long, but it made me realize when to leave situations. So I stayed too long, and the more we kept doing this, and it felt worse and worse. And ultimately, the day I graduated college, I was dating the singer too, so broke up.
Mm-hmm.
Graduated college, left the band the same day on a band that was in. Like, we walk into at the time we walked into a venue that was around the genre. Everybody knew who we were, we go to LA, play, they were fans. Anywhere there were always a couple fans. So we were doing things that were affecting people, and we were seeing the results. There was some money coming in too. And music wasn't too good, honestly. It was an interesting brand. And then
Is it still up anywhere where people can listen to it?
yeah,
Sweet.
yeah. I'm not gonna. I mean, if you want to listen to it, it's cool. But but yeah. So I just left, and everything. My whole life started over. When you would think it would just begin.
And how was that like? You know, like so now your band is broken up. You're graduated. I assume too. Like you're not. Are you still seeing your teacher, your guitar teacher as much? Because now you
No,
graduated and stuff. So
no.
now it's like different,
No,
right?
he helped me the most with that situation, and because I mean, him and his wife or his wife is one of the most famous background singers of all time, you know, and Robin and and so he told me stories about how to maintain a relationship with that, and so he was trying to help me through the process of breaking up the band, breaking up with her, and and so once that ended and whatnot, it just didn't work out. Graduated school, I was off my own, so I wasn't seeing him every day anymore. We still text all the time, but it just wasn't. It'll never be the same. You know, me and my three buddies, Dave Bellman and our other friend Tyler Ward, we were his brain trust, he would call us. So sent us a nice, beautiful message on text, my brain trust, blah, 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 blah. Much success. You guys will do everything you need to do. Forever, this will be in my heart. There's nobody that could ever be you, like you guys. So it was kind of just like a little chapter that would turn. And now we see each other every couple times a year rather than every day. And it's a beautiful thing. And then at that moment, to bridge it into the next part of this whole life of career of what I do in music, that's when I guess Sgar was born. I realized that I wasn't just of an arm of another band led by somebody else. I just wanted to fulfill the artist in me and start producing more, start writing more, rather than just perform and whatnot, living somebody else's dream pretty much. So I wanted to do my thing. Got me linked up with a lot of cool people. Immediately wrote with a number one Billboard charting songwriter Mike G. We wrote a couple cool things, and that's what made me realize how to write a good pop song.
So what actually I think this is really interesting because whenever I have an artist up here, I always ask them what their songwriting process is. And as you know, especially in the studio, we have a lot of DIYs coming in and out. And even me, like I actually used to write music and stuff too. And I'm wondering, like, what is it that makes what's a good writing process? What is your writing process?
It's changed over the years, right? And it used to be I could only write from pain, and not only write, I could only really channel the good shit that I felt like it was real from the pain meaning just like everybody's different levels of pain and what you think, but whatever make me upset or reminiscent or something that I wish, more longing for things or just past things that just went south. But so then I would just channel that, and I would, at the time, all the tools were different too. So now it's mostly just the people I'm around. I think my process is, I hate writing shit alone nowadays. It's lonely, and I like being around good people and a good community and people just to bounce ideas back and forth. A pure collaboration is usually the best and most fun and fulfilling thing for me. So my process would be, if I'm writing with somebody or producing with somebody or for somebody, is just starting off with a keyboard melody, a keyboard chorus or something, just getting a quick little top line on it, and just getting the vibe right, getting a couple of, nothing crazy, nothing overproduced yet, but just getting the soul of the song. Because if a song can be stripped down into keyboard, acoustic guitar form, and a voice, and still hit you as hard as a fully produced version, that is what defines a great song to me.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of going about it.
Like you listen to Heroes from Bowie broken down. That shit'll make you melt every time. Listen to anything Bob Dylan does. Those are not to discredit any other produced songs, but those are great songs. You listen to Nine Inch Nails' "Hurt." That's a fully produced song, but when you break it down to just guitar or just keyboards, that's one of the greatest songs ever written. Johnny Cash even covered it, which humbled Trent Reznor. You know, like Gaga, like all of her ridiculously not overproduced, but very produced dance songs, stripped down to her and the piano, ridiculous.
And she has a ridiculous voice too. Like it's not even like, you know, a lot of people like, you know, see her just as the pop star,
right?
And especially at the beginning of her career was very like, you know, crazy and hectic. But like she could sing. Actually, she has those songs that she did with Tony Bennett. And funny enough, I think my teacher, well, he wasn't my teacher. He is the head of jazz in William Patterson, and he had actually ended up being like Tony Bennett's
No way.
pianist.
Nice.
So it's really cool. So he got to like work on some of his stuff as well.
Right.
Yeah, it's insane how the music world is all kind of connected and stuff, and you get to meet and be surrounded by these legends and see like what information you could absorb to make you a better musician as well.
For sure, man.
So where we left off in your story is you're coming right out of college. You know, it's brand new for you. You said you were writing with that guy from the Billboard #1, right? So and this band, Sgar or
Scar.
Scar.
Just
Scar.
Scar. Yeah, my
Scar,
last
Scar.
name's Scarlata, so got
Right,
it. Scar.
Scar. Bet. So Scar, how did they end up like coming together?
And that's just a solo thing. That's just me, actually.
Oh, word.
So, I mean, the day aspect would just comes from just live performance and whatnot to just hired people or just friends to play. But just me, myself, just again, just being wanting to push the artist limits of me, want to produce and write by myself, and not by myself, but for myself, for what I want me to be, rather than for somebody else. So that carried me into a lot of different things. 100,000 was the next thing that came. So Scar was working at the same time as my dream metal band that I wanted to be in. That's a great, awesome story too, right? In this town, pretty much. Like when I was 14, 15, somewhere in that, 15 years old.
And this is the beginnings of
100,000, yeah.
Bet.
Yeah, so the beginning of before 100,000 was 100,000. They were called Westgate. I didn't know who they were yet. So my dad is friends with one of the other local bands called Dead Fish Handshake. At the time, they were called Down Shallow. And he worked with this the guitarist's wife. So she said, my husband has a show in Nyack or Nanuet, Nyack, New York, and it's a little theater. Just come down, cool. I'm like, great, you want to come? Sure. So we went down to see him, and the opening band was this band called Westgate. And they go on stage. I first see the guitarist. He has this John Petrucci guitar. John Petrucci is one of my favorite guitarists from Dream Theater. I was really young, very geeky guitar at the time. I'm like, oh my god, this guy must be really good. Turns out he was great. And this band was Westgate, and that guitarist was Alex Goldenthal, and the other guitarist was Kurt Wibbenhorst, and the drummer was George Roskis. And these guys were this fucking sound that they did at the time. For Westgate was that part of me that I needed, and that why they weren't fucking on the road with the biggest dudes, the biggest cats in the game. That's only for whoever to figure out. But that when I heard that sound, I was just like mesmerized. The only time I ever at a local show or pretty much any show went up to the band after, I was like, hi. Can I get a CD? I remember it was Kurt. He was like, yeah, sure. So he got the singer to go get a CD out of his car, and he gave it to me, and I was a fan. I was a fucking fan. And then we saw Down Shallow perform, great as well. But Westgate hit me in a different way. So another show happened, and I wanted to get closer with them. My dad was like, let me just talk to Kurt and kind of introduce you guys to see if we could figure out a little bit more. Like, you play music, Greg? Kurt, you play music? What are you doing? So it turns out Kurt was saying at the time, I got to meet these guys and at another show, and we were talking a little bit, and they were opening up a new studio at the time called Architect. What is Architect? What is this thing? It's going to come down opening night. Down Shallow's, Dead Fish Handshake, which was the old Down Shallow, was performing, and Westgate, I forgot if they were performing or not, will be there, because obviously their owners, the people who own Architect, were in the band. So I was like, okay, let's go down. Go down, awesome, get to meet everybody more. And my dad was like, Greg, go try to intern here. I was like, what does that mean? He's like, just do it. I'm like, okay. So I went up to Kurt. I was like, hey, intern, all this stuff. He's like, yeah, sure. Give me a a CD or give me a demo or something. I'm like, a demo? What does that mean? So at the time I was in my first metal band, Forbidden Territory. So recorded a demo in my home studio, and sent it. I gave it to him the next day or something, and I couldn't drive yet, so I was 15, and I'll never forget, that was the first time somebody believed in me besides my family. That was the first time someone that I looked up to as my favorite band listened to my shit that was horribly recorded, horribly written, horribly everything. He was like, I see something in this kid at a very young age and nobody else did. And he was like, yeah, come intern. I was the architect's first intern. I was sweeping the floors, all the good shit. The Swiffer,
crazy.
that Swiffer is the greatest smelling shit of all time. And I would learn a little bit from Ferretti, Mike Ferretti, the engineer there, and we would just, I got to know people, start to understand the studio life.
And when was this, like, year-wise?
2015, around, I think they opened in 20, I forgot what year they opened, around 2015.
That's sick.
Sick. And then and then ultimately I always wanted to be in the band. So as connecting the story that all the stories I've told throughout this podcast of the bands that I was in, we were always in touch, and they saw me grow, and I saw them grow into 100,000. I started doing live sound, so I started doing live sound at Architect, and I did live sound for 100,000's first show. And we just, the scene started getting tighter and tighter, and they wanted me to join the band. I was like, oh shit, what, they want a second guitarist all of a sudden. I'm like, okay. So I was still in psych. We were doing really well at the time, in the middle of everything. And I'm like, I learned all the songs in like a night, and that I had to learn, and killed it. They wanted me to join. And I was like, sorry, I can't. I can't. I'm already doing too much shit. I was like, I said yes to the audition, but then I had to say no, and they fully understood. And we kept in touch. Kurt once we kicked the drummer out for Psycha, I asked Kurt if he wanted to play for us, which wound up being our last gig ever. And he was like, I did that too because I wanted to snag you. and as soon as, like I said, that day I graduated, I started the Sgar thing, and then a couple weeks later I joined 100,000 full time. And that was my favorite metal band, and we're the progressive metal genre, and I'm still in this band as a fan, and it's cool to see my dream record being written that Shane here produced and recorded with us, and that's something that will live for me forever, Zodiac. So yeah, that's the part we're at now, and 100,000, and Sgar in the meantime. During that whole thing, there's a whole other story about the Sgar brand and Greg Sgar. I started, COVID hit, right? So, and this is when 100,000 was releasing Zodiac. So we had the Zodiac theme record, and we were releasing one song at a time. We had label interest from a couple awesome majors, but everything stopped as soon as COVID hit. We'll get back to you. Never did. But so, like, we're not going to wait anymore. We already held on to the record for a year. Let's just start releasing like we always wanted to do. One song, 1 month at a time, in line with the Zodiac cycle for a year. So while that happened right at COVID, March of 2020, right? 2020 and COVID. And so at that time, I wanted to continue going a million miles an hour with 100,000, which we did. And at the same time, enter the dance world. I had still to this day, Tony, my manager from Damp, which you met Tony a couple of times.
Yeah.
And we wanted to figure out a way how to get out of the rock, not get out, but to evolve the Sgar brand into different shit, right? So always just keep saying yeah. So we had a mutual connection through another label and whatnot that hooked us up with this awesome dude named Rick Getz. He's a part of Red Light Management, and he ultimately hooked me up with, which wound up being the biggest success I've had in my career, which was having the #1 song and dance song in North America. I got the #1.
That's sick, dude.
So knocked
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. That was awesome. I knocked David Guetta off, knocked Tiesto, knocked Deadmau5, knocked everybody. Dude. And I was drunk in Epcot with my girlfriend and her when drunk, drinking around the world. And we were at our last stop we were in Mexico, and I was so drunk. And there's a video of it on Instagram too when it was happening. It just had the #1 song. I'm fucking running around just in the trees and jumping on the bush. It's hysterical. But yeah, that was cool. And so through COVID, I got introduced to Rick, and and he introduced me to he was he was big in the rock world, so he was like, oh, I may have a couple electronic or dance connections, so let me reach into my Rolodex to see what we could do. He got me hooked up with Morgan. Morgan Madison was in Greg Sgar's Far From Home, which is the song. And the first dance song I ever did, and he sent this track. I met him over Zoom. He lives in Idaho, and we were just this wholesome kid, man, my age, our age, and he just had this. He was signed to he wasn't even signed there yet. He had this manager, and he was just picking things up, and he was saying he's been DJing forever, and he doesn't really he's gonna give it one last good shot with this stuff before he just goes back to his blue collar. I mean, he was a finance guy, I think. I forget.
Word.
Don't quote me, but go back to that life of the 9 to 5. And he sent me the song. First time I ever did any top lining. Top lining is the voice, or the vocals over an instrumental dance track.
At this point, yeah, because you haven't talked about your vocals yet.
Right.
Was this like the first time you're doing vocals?
No, this is the first time that I think that I honed in on the vocals.
Yeah.
Because the Sgar brand was always, before this song, was always, I mean, based around my voice and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, we could talk about that too. But this is the era, I think, where I fully understood how to utilize my voice. was from hearing it in a very minimalistic approach in a dance EDM progressive house setting, because you very easily overcompensate in the rock world if you're not aware of techniques, which I don't know techniques. I just figured out from constantly failing or just pivoting and meeting other people and coaching me and whatnot, mentors and whatnot. So yeah, and I learned that there's just such a minimalistic approach to recording vocals and really getting the point across from less is more. And dance music taught me that with my voice. And I recorded the song, wrote the song, and I hated it. Me and my girlfriend, we it was the first dance song I ever did. We went in my car and we were just driving around like I normally do when I write something, and we were both looking at each other like, nah, this isn't good. Like, you didn't do a good job, Greg, or maybe just the song's not too good. And this, I don't really know what it is. Now I kind of do, but at the time I don't even know anything about dance music, so let me just try it. And turns out I sent it to Morgan, which is like, here, just take it. And he called me up, he was crying. He was like, I've never felt this way about a song in my whole life. We got something here. I was like, do we? You sure, man? We listened to the same song. And immediately got signed to Mousetrap. Like, we did a couple more songs, like just experimenting, and nothing ever came to fruition. They were great, but just weren't part of his brand. That's one thing that sucks about being a vocalist in that world. It's not your stuff. You're usually singing on the main DJ, producer, artist stuff. Yeah. So you're at the mercy of their schedule, their label, their decisions. So kind of sucks. But so he immediately got signed to Mousetrap. And I'm like, oh shit, I like Mousetrap. I know what that means. Yeah. Dead Mouse, he's a dude. And that's awesome. What comes next? He's like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. So couple weeks later, it turns out that we get a release date, and all these plans are coming out. Sending the art, it's ridiculous. Sends me his full record. It fits in like a glove in the record. It's like that record, his record, Living the Phantasm, is like that Zodiac for me. It's like everything is just right. Everything in that world, that record made me understand in the dance world what dance music is, and it's a great record. And so it fit in like a glove, that our song, and like a couple weeks later, as soon as it got released, Morgan said, "Hey, we just got on Sirius, like they're gonna be playing it on Dead Mouse's mixtape, whatever." I'm like, oh, whatever that means, cool. I was with my dad, and he's a hair metal dude. He's a metal dude, and we're listening to this in the car in his driveway. He's like, what's going on? Like dance music? I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, cool, sounds good. And it was awesome to hear that on Sirius, and I always wanted to be on Sirius. So to hear that come to fruition, that was beautiful. Next thing that happened with that song was that it became a BPM, the station BPM, the biggest dance station in North America. It became a BPM breaker, which is when Sirius themselves chooses the song that is expected to break for the month. So of a new song. So like, okay, it became the breaker. like this is huge. It was on regular rotation on Sirius. It started climbing up the charts from March of 2021 to up until September of 2021 when it officially became number one. So it was cool to see how the timeline of how a song grows on that level, to go from infancy to, because we wrote it in 2020 and it became what it was in 2021 in September, and it wound up becoming number 9 for all of BPMs and the 9th most played or best, whatever they said it, dance song in North America for the year. So that was really, really cool. It knocked Shouse off. All I need is your love.
That's crazy. That's crazy, dude.
They had the biggest run, I think, for the year. So that was just the dream. I just remember being in the pool in Disney after we got back from Epcot, and I was just like, I had peace for like a half hour myself. Hotel had like a happy hour, free drinks for like 3 hours, and I got back right in that window, got a nice strawberry daiquiri. Just laying in the pool by myself. Everybody was just in the hotel room. I was just like, I could breathe for a second. It felt like I got to that point where I could just appreciate it. And it's hard to appreciate the wins that you have when you're doing them, because it just you lose track of the moment, right? So I always tried to take mental snapshots on stage so I wouldn't forget those moments or the wins, and I just in my brain, cause just to play the reels, the greatest hits of your life and your successes for what you define as success. So I just had the second to breathe for that, and that felt great. And then an hour later, I got right back to the anxiety-driven head that I have. And like, oh, that's what comes next. I'm like, I don't want to peak on fucking. What do we do now? Shit.
Wait, so tell me, like, so this song blows up, becomes number one. Like, how did it feel during the months to kind of see it climb? And like, did you know it was gonna get as big as it was going to get during that time period? Because obviously you didn't when you first heard it, because you were just like, oh, what? It's all right? How did you feel like as it was getting more popular?
I started to get people from my high school reach out to me, and people that, I mean, I was friendly with everybody, and still am, but I like people to a degree, and so I didn't have any bad relations. But you see the people who you haven't talked to in years that were always, that you could tell, like they just want to. They want to say, hey, remember me from high school? Like that type of stupid story. But I started to see people reach out to me from high school or old friends and family that like when family says that never understood what you did, heard it at a frat party or something with and it's like, and it says your name. It's like, it's funny how all of a sudden what you do for a family that aren't musicians or whatnot becomes like really cool and accepted, you know, even though my family's always my biggest supporters, but the other like parts of the family that are like college and accounting and all that good stuff, and oh, you're doing like that, like Thanksgiving dinners, you're still doing that music thing, huh? You're still doing that music thing? Yeah, I'm trying. So then the conversation was like, oh, awesome, you're doing that music thing now.
Word.
So it was not that I really ever cared from them, but it was cool. Yeah. So the answer to that short again is I started to see people when it started to climb in like the summer. People would hear it. If you listen to Sirius, it was getting played 20 times a day. So you're gonna hear it if you're in a car for more than a half hour or so. So yeah, once people started reaching out to me and saying great song, even the metal people in the metal community, like great song, like that's when I realized that I was inspiring and just people to do better also, and especially in the close metal circle as it is, because metal gets such a bad connotation on it, because if you're a metalhead, you have to stay a metalhead forever, and if you're not, you're a phony, right?
Yeah, you definitely get that feel, like, you know, within the community as well.
Yeah, so
but you still had the respect of your peers and everybody seeing what you were doing.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy? You know, like you're a mad humble dude. Like, you know, how do you keep level headed during this time?
I don't think I've reached anywhere of what I'm capable of and what is meant or what I can do. So
I fuck with that. I fuck with that deep.
Yeah. So there's no time. I guess I had 30 minutes to take it in for that, but it's like there's no time to really like not be humble. If you're not humble to it, it means to me that you're not focused on what you're trying to do. You're not focused on the reason why you're doing it, because you just get back to work. You see it for what it is. Tell your family, a couple of cool people, and that's it. And stay humble. And Kendrick,
No, yeah, no,
you know.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So after this, after the song goes number one, and you have time, things that did you ever go out to perform it or anything?
No, this was in the middle of COVID. Remember, it was
Right,
crazy.
right.
So this whole fucking time of wait, OHC 100,000 Sgar. Greg Sgar, because that was my artist name at the time, because the label didn't want to change it to Scar for Far From Home. It all happened right in the middle of COVID, and I couldn't perform anywhere. And then Morgan started to do his tour with Dead Mouse, and came to Brooklyn Mirage, and we were gonna come hang. And he was like, we wound up not being able to get in because security were being dicks, and I was on the list and shit. And it's a pretty funny story, but
You want to share it?
well, he kind of had one of those you have to be there.
Okay,
but
I
yeah,
got you.
like
Yeah, I got
the journey to get to the show was just fucking hysterical. Dropped my phone off of a roof of my friend's house, and I couldn't text Morgan like the details of the name and the address. And right in the middle of it was my girlfriend. She accidentally knocked it out of my hands of the 3-story window.
Jesus.
I went to my friend's house in Brooklyn, and and he wasn't there. So he left the key for me to get in. I had to go. We had to shower. Right, because we were playing paddleball right beforehand, so we had to go shower there, and because the show was at Brooklyn Mirage in Brooklyn, and my friend lives in Brooklyn, and then we're just hanging out on his patio, his little patio, and then we were just hanging out, me and my girlfriend, and I had my phone out, and she accidentally hit it out of my hand, and it flew down 3 stories, and I had to go get it because my buddy wasn't there, and I couldn't get into we're in the courtyard because you needed keys to get all around. So I hopped in Brooklyn. I went to the next door neighbor. I hopped over their fence. There was like a 10-foot, 12-foot high fence with these. It hurt. I was bleeding. Shit was hard. It was amazing. No shoes and trying to get over the fence, and I got over the fence and got my phone. It was like an hour experience. I had to put things on top of each other just to get a grip. Got my phone. Awesome. Got all the information of Morgan. Turns out that we couldn't even get it in because shit wasn't even. It was pouring raining. We couldn't get in because shit wasn't. It was another thing, but we were we were talking about me coming on stage to perform that at the time, the Far From Home, but that world, like Morgan isn't Dead Mouse, right? The song it was just doing well at the time. It wasn't number one yet, so it was in July, and I think it was July around that time, and so it's weird when. It's not a rock show where you have a band behind you and you can have some special guests come in and it's like cool but it's cool if Dead Mouse gets lights, like the girl Lights, come on and sing because everybody knows the song at the time and Dead Mouse is Dead Mouse, Lights is Lights, and you're the headliner, right? And you have the special guest come. But if you're one of the openers and your song's just starting to get heard, not a lot of people know it yet, but people are starting to, and you're the opener, it's still light out. And this random dude comes on. You have a smaller stage than Dead Mouse, I think. I'm not sure how they do it. I think it's smaller. And then you have this random dude come out. And it's like, hey, here's me. And Far From Home, it doesn't, I wouldn't admit, and that's what he said too. And he was like, yeah, I guess you're right. But it still would be cool to sing this on stage with him when he comes around again. But we had a great time. I took him through New York, and because he's from Idaho, doesn't know New York too well. Got him to meet my buddy Steve, who was the guy's house that I dropped it off of his thing at his studio, and it was really cool. And what a wholesome dude, man. Yeah.
So what was your next move now after that song goes number one? And
right.
kind of, I guess this is leading up to near now, right?
Pretty close. So I meet my my current main music partner, Ming. He's a Grammy nom producer and remixer from. He's a veteran. He's in terms of he's been in the industry, had great success in the late 90s, early 2000s with his drum and bass project and his underground electronic group called Ming and FS. Couple Grammy noms and all that stuff, and for their remixes and his rigorous touring with that band. And so I got hooked up with him from Rick, the guy who hooked me up with Morgan as well. Thank you, Rick. And
Shout out Rick.
shout out Rick. And so he's a little bit of an older dude than me. And like I said, he's been around for a while, so he understands the dance world. Like, that's his thing. And he came from a hair metal band too, so now he's a bald dude.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. And so we're brothers, man. And we started. The goal with Ming with Rick was to get me involved with Ming because he was getting big into the Brazilian house genre, and yeah.
And can you explain to me a little bit, like, the different, because the dance, like, genres are so big,
Yeah.
like crazy, and like I don't know necessarily how you get to like, and I know people who are seriously into dance, like music and like EDM and all that stuff, like they take it because I know there's I don't even know how to start. I think there's like bass,
Right.
I forget what I
There's
honestly,
a lot. Yeah.
there's a lot.
There's a lot. I'm starting to get more. I mean, not starting to. I'm schooled in it now, but I mean, the different genres come from mostly the tempos of what each subgenre is. You know, the elements that you use, like if you're talking about bass or dubstep, that's very heavy, just in the heavy oscillation, like the wah shit, right? Different tempo, then different sound choice, different kicks, different snares, different arrangements. Like, it's the same thing that everything else, but it's harder to understand if you don't produce it. You know, if you're not savvy with that world. But in layman's terms, I would say the differences in these genres mainly are the tempos and the sound choices that you use.
Word. And you know what's funny? Just thinking about it too, it's like I feel like there's a lot of at least one big parallel that I could see between like metal fans and especially like dance music fans is like they go hard.
For sure.
They go hard as hell.
And a lot of these DJs too are started into metal bands or just metal fans. Like Morgan, for instance, we both love Killswitch, we both love Meshuggah, Periphery, like some prog metal band stuff. That's why he really likes 100,000 too. And that's why we get along as well. And you could see that in his production. You could feel the metal of these cats in their productions too, in their stage performances. So you're right. You're definitely right, man. Like, we're all the same, you know. Just the means in which that we're not is comes across as that we're not. But in terms of the sounds and the genres, but we're all the same.
So are you currently writing with Ming still?
Yes, and so I was introduced to Ming because he was getting big in the Brazilian house world, and the goal with me was to get me more Spotify streams because that's what people care about. Unfortunately, the world, right? So
when you say people care about, you talking just like
partners,
labels,
bigger collaborators, whoever. If you see somebody has like 2,000 monthly listeners, you're like, oh. But if you see somebody has 200,000, you're like, oh, stupid. So, but I get it. And so he was put in a situation where he was non-exclusively signed to a awesome label called Brass Live, one of the biggest house labels in Brazil, and he was the guy who was bridging the gap between American top-line artists and singers like myself with their DJs, their biggest DJs. So he, in order to do that, like there wasn't money exchange. It's just like I'm a primary artist on this stuff, and you get more streams like with us, and so that was a perfect thing. We took a phone call. I was at IHOP getting stung by bees. It was a great time in the Bronx.
That sounds like a great time,
right? Yeah. And I'm like, hold on, Meg. Hold on. Like, good to meet you, but we gotta get away from these bees. And yeah, we hit it off immediately, and we started writing together and over Zoom, and because COVID never met for months, a year or so, it was crazy, and we got really close. Had some awesome records with some of the biggest Brazilian DJs, Santi, The Groove, freaking what's the other? A couple of Ant Dot, a couple of big Brazilian guys, the same genre and family as A-Lock and Vintage Culture, all those guys.
Sweet, dude.
And so we started doing that, and we were like, we're doing so much of this. Everybody's saying yes. Everybody's loving it. Your voice is approved and respected in this genre. We know now. Let's start doing it for ourselves and make our own project. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's write for ourselves. And we wound up calling it Ash Nova. And that's what my main dance project is now. I'm shifting the Sgar brand away from the dance world and kind of just putting that all into Ash Nova and refocusing Sgar into what the core of it is, of being electronic, this rock guy. So that's an ever evolving machine, and Ash Nova is taking over the dance part again. So yeah, so this is what we've been doing since COVID, and all through Zoom. Morgan, all these collabs, all this success, if you want to call it, these opportunities have been through Zoom sessions, not like the typical way of being in a room with somebody.
Yeah, and how has that affected your writing? Like, do you find it to be harder to write over Zoom, or do you kind of feel like you can get the work done that you need to get done?
Yeah, I'm upset. I'm like that analog type of guy at heart. That's like, oh,
okay,
fuck
yeah.
that, fuck this. And I want amps. I don't want any like digital like that type of stuff. But I got over that as I got older. So Zoom, I was like, I want to be in the room with people and feel their sweat. You know, I want to talk about shit and like shake their hands and I don't know, whatever. So Zoom felt weird, but I hate to say it, I really like it now, man. It makes I was having a session with these Brazilian artists every day for months. I couldn't fly to Brazil every day.
Yeah, no, it's true.
So Zoom was the means in which that we were able to do that, and Ming and I, we're both audio guys, like yourself too, and everybody. So we understood the signal flow and how to get the perfect sound, stereo sound, no latency, and right in the beginning, before really it was a thing on Zoom. So we were doing these sessions. People like, how is it sound this good? And we could control each other's screens or Logic. He could record me from outside. I could be recording drums in my room in my studio, and he could be in Brazil or Harlem, and click record on my computer.
No way.
Crazy shit. Yeah.
And there was like no latency in between?
No.
No way.
Nothing.
That's
Crazy.
insane.
Because you have these other things to make it work like that. But yeah, so I got really hip to doing Zoom sessions, man, and that's kind of, it happens more and more and more and more now with these top writers that I see, and it's just the new norm. We have to evolve. We're vessels of each. We have to use these things to help us stay hip with these kids nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the new thing, and it's fun too. So I'm for it ultimately.
So you were talking about your songwriting process before, how you used to, grab everything from pain and usually put that into your music. And I feel like, especially for a genre like metal, you know what I mean? That might be easy to kind of like go all out. But now, like, what do you grab your inspiration from now when you're going into dance?
Right, and there's less time because there's so much more output and so many more opportunities, so much more work in this, because obviously when the song did what it did, a lot of people are reaching out and getting more opportunities to work with better people, and and it's just flowing with like a song a day. So I'm like, I'm just like, what am I going to write about every time? So it's just usually the it's so stupid. It's like what's the term? I forgot the term, but it's just like the type of thinking where you're not thinking. You just this activity where you would just write a word and just go with it, So most of the time I'll get sent the song from the instrumental from the DJ, and it'll just be some whatever name, I don't know, like lights or some butt scratch McGee or some shit, whatever it may be, and I'll take something from that and use that as the title of the song, or even use it in the lyrics, but I'll use that as inspiration to drive from, because they wrote that, because ultimately I have to get approved by the end of the day from these guys. They have to like it, so I'm like, they wrote that title because they felt the way about that song and made them say that, so I might as well hone in on that a little bit and use it as a catalyst for whatever I may do or write about for this song. So yeah, so in terms of my process with that, it's how do I stay motivated, and where do I take from inspiration? It's a lot of these I don't even know. I like that. Like I just said, just I would just go on a tangent from one word and just be a vessel for whatever comes to me. That's it. Usually it's about nostalgia. I love melodic elements, melodic songs. So when there's a lot of lot of depth and dynamicism with the dance song. It's very easy to feel nostalgic and reminiscent about things. So the past and where you hope to be, like I was saying before, is a very easy topic to talk about. And where we may go when we go is something that is always interesting to me. So a lot of times, Ming catches me because he's like, "Oh, your jazz hands are coming in, your metal, you're that side." Because I could go on tangents when I write the lyrics, so it's like focus, still dance. People don't want to sing about Windows going through the fire of all this crazy shit in the dance world. They just want to talk to their friends and like look at them in the crowd and say these words like simple terms but meaningful, you know. So understanding how to be very purposefully minimalistic with lyrics and conversational.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think makes a successful song?
Successful in a sense of,
I guess
of the
that's
radio
very,
or
yeah,
the successful.
Yeah.
So
That's very. I guess it could go a lot of ways.
right.
Better said. Better said. What do you think makes a song? I mean, this is a weird way of putting it too. But what do you think makes a good song?
Gotcha.
You know, regardless of whoever plays it. Like, what do you look at it like
Right.
and make it like what makes it great?
I spoke about this a little before too, but I'll make this a part of it. One is that if it could be stripped back down to the keyboard and the guitar, and if you could sing that, and again, if it makes you feel that same way, and that's to me is the definition of a great song. And to further that, if it stands the test of time, too, because timelessness is the thing that I think that every artist chases for their music. You don't want one-hit wonders are scary, man.
Yeah.
You know, like you I mean, that one song may live, but actually that may not be a good example. But the idea of having partial success or partially just like you die off after a couple years, that's scary. And like you want to leave a legacy for your family or your friends or for the world, whoever it may be. You have a statue, whatever it may, you know. So to be able to have that timeless fact with music is your music is the thing that you can't chase that. It just happens. You know, everybody. When I think of the most proud I've ever been, I'm not talking about Far From Home in terms of just the art itself. When my most proud work, Zodiac, like when I think of how that's written and how that happens, and Signs, my favorite song I've ever written for myself, like everybody in that room and yourself, they were on the same frequency, in the same time. You all understood everything of what you're doing. Everybody was on the same frequency. Like nobody trying to challenge each other, like everybody's united over their own problems together and and is happy to be sad about things, happy to be hungry, happy to be hurting, and there's not one person that has to just go away for a while. Everybody's united, and you're on that frequency. If you know what I mean, you get it. And so that's what creates great art and honest and true art. And what ultimately, I think, gives it the best chance for it to be timeless. Because everything, the energy you put into it, comes out of it. And people who feel the same way you felt when you made it will attach to that. And show their kids, and show their friends, and show their parents. And create a movement, which could be timeless.
Dude, I think that's one of the best well-spoken answers I think I've ever gotten on a fucking podcast.
Nice.
Jesus Christ, dude. Well, you know, going through this journey and everything, and I guess, so tell me where you are at, like, today. Like, what is everything going through?
There is, you ready for this change of pace?
Yeah.
Okay. So, music, being an artist, I always struggle with being late to things. Social media. Last one in my friend group to get on Facebook. Last one to get on Instagram. Still not on TikTok.
Yeah.
You know, like, so.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is great. This is a great change of pace. Yeah, tell me about that.
So, like, last one to feel like I got into, wound up being the first, like, not first, but in the earlier stage, getting out of the metal world and just experiencing the other genres of things, but always feeling like I'm late to everything and just like adapting rather than innovating or whatever. So, even if it's not the case, but that's just the way I felt. And so I was like, all of a sudden COVID hit, and I'm in the middle of doing all this shit. I'm feeling great, bring it all on, and I don't want to be late to anything that's coming. All of a sudden, NFTs come into this world. I'm like, what is this? What is this 3-letter acronym that everybody's talking about over this new social media platform called Clubhouse that nobody knows what they're talking about, or it's just a war. Like, if you have you ever been on Clubhouse?
I have not.
Have you heard of it though?
I have.
Right.
I have.
What a clusterfuck. What's fun. That's when NFTs, the non-fungible tokens of the world, the Web3, the crypto, all that shit. The reason why, I mean, I dabbled in crypto years ago and lost a little bit, and I was like, all right, I'm out. I don't know what any of this means. Nobody really does. And when I had this number one song happen, and talking to Ming a lot more, I was aware of NFTs, trying to understand what they could do, and how it could help music or help whatever this new thing is. I'm starting to see. I'm older now. I'm like, this thing is becoming a thing and starting to get adopted by people, and people are starting to talk shit about it. When a lot of people start talking shit about something, and it gets viral, or just people just hate on it, that shit's gonna pop off.
Yeah.
I realize that now.
Yeah.
Before, so I'm like, I want to know as much as I fucking can about this thing. I don't even like it. I don't care to like it. But it turns out I figured out. Not figured out. I learned that you can provide NFTs for music, for your fans, for whatever, and provide them more exclusivity. So the idea of using NFTs to provide fans or people or music goers, doers, or anybody more exclusivity was attractive to me. And when Ming told me that, I was like, oh shit, time to get into this for real now. Turns out we were trying to figure out ways to use music with it, offer our music as NFTs, but it turns out nobody even wants to buy music in general. So unless you're Drake, unless you're Metallica, unless you're Bieber or whoever, or Blau, it's going to be very hard to get people to buy your music as NFTs if they don't even know what that is, or how to obtain one, what it means to obtain one, and if they don't even buy music in general. So we're like, all right, we're just going to put a hold on that in terms of offering the music. So I took a detour from that, though we just kept writing, and still, like, nothing ever came to fruition. We have ideas, which will come soon. But this was in August, right when the song was happening and whatnot. So I figured I want to get into this world. I don't want to be late into the Web3 space. I want to find this community and be a part of it, and offer everything that I could for free, for a discount, musically related to these projects, whatever.
And did you see people like getting into it? Like, who are your friends that getting into it too?
No. Nobody. I don't have anybody to talk to about this shit, and I'll tell you why too. But so I wind up figuring out that I could, a lot of projects, these NFT projects, these, like an NFT project, you look at Bored Ape, for people who don't understand, that's an NFT project, a drop, a line, whatever. So these projects at the time, in late summer, early fall, and into the winter, didn't realize they needed music. I was like, I do that. I'm gonna do that for you. So I just started using my Twitter again. I hated Twitter. I used it back then because I got verified and all that stuff, and it was just been sitting there, and I wanted to see if I could use my status. That's why that shit's so stupid to me. But I'm like, let me see if I could use this and what I could do, what I could actually do, and I could offer to help for these projects for music, and get in touch with these bigger brands, these bigger projects, these bigger names in the space that would give me a chance because of my Twitter verification. So stupid, but it worked.
Hey, dude,
And I was able to open up these conversations because this space is so new, and there's less than 1% of the world still that's involved. So everybody's hungry. Everybody wants to shake hands and meet virtually and meet everybody and talk to as many people. So cordial and open to everything you have to offer, because they ultimately want to make it for themselves, but they know that in order to do that, they need to know more about what they want to do and how they could all help each other. So it's this cordial, selfless, but still for yourself mentality that I loved. And it turns out I started creating theme songs for NFT projects, for NFT games, for their meta experience, for their marketplace, for their profile picture.
So what were some NFT projects that you ended up working on?
Glaciators was my first one. It's nothing. It was just cool to get paid in crypto.
Of course,
so
dude.
it was nothing really great happened with them, but it was a cool song, little theme thing, like this 80s retro thing. This another one called Web3 Gallery, and it could just go on and on. But the point is that use that to get use my skill set to get involved in a space that was very much filled with people that did not do music. So I was like the black sheep in this thing where people wanted to take meetings with me, and how can I get more involved in minting NFTs and making money and flipping NFTs, and like you would flip a house or flip a stock or like flip anything, you buy it low, sell it high, right? So it turns out that I went on YouTube, biggest influencers in the NFT space. Found all of them at the time and reached out to all of them. Got like 10 of them they list. 3 got back to me. All cool. Sounds good. Music, yeah. Hop on meetings. Discord? What's Discord? Let's go. So I got Discord. I'm Discording. Hello, how are you? Voice chat, and we got all these got pretty cool relationships. One of them in which is where I'm at today with this space, and Absolute Salt. For any NFT goers here, Absolute Salt is the founder of The Ascendants, which is one of the biggest alpha groups in the whole NFT space in the world. An alpha group is a group on Discord or whatever medium you use, which is Discord for this, and that provides value for your community in some way. In the NFT space, it is through whitelist spots, which are pre-sale spots for NFT things, for analytical calls for the market of how it's going to be, for giveaways, whatever it may be. So this is a group comprised of people who pay thousands of dollars to be a part of this group, and many people, 1,000 people in this group. So this is one of the big ones. And when I start talking to him about music, it's like, yeah, let me be your middleman. I'll introduce you to some people. That never happened. But what was cool is that I stayed close with him. Turns out that he said that he needed in his Discord, he said, I'm hiring a video editor. I edit video part-time a little bit. I want to get in with this community. Again, using my strength, saying yes to fucking everything that I could. Just keep, yes. Can I take it on with all the music? Yes. Figure it out later. And took it on, and I sent him a couple real estate videos that I did.
Word.
And he's like, yes. Hundreds of people applied, and I got into the last 3 or 2, and he's like, he does like the weekly update videos, like in front of a computer, like market updates and stuff. So he was like, make it a little fun, do some animations and stuff. I'm like, what the fuck? So I learn how to do it, figure it all out, and I guess I did it better than the other 3, or not better, but what way that he liked it, and in my communication skills of just talking to him, of more of long-term things, and like you'll have more communication with me than anybody else, but selling myself as best as I could for something that I'm very new at. He wound up choosing me, getting paid in crypto now for doing video editing, being a part of the Ascendants, getting my shit locked in with them. Still making music for the other people too, but mostly now my main role is editing for him. How many people can I meet? He's talking to the billionaires, the millionaires, the artists of the space. I want to be a part of this, just for the sake of being a part of a community that's so untapped and early. That's so exciting and motivating to me, to be a part of something that's so early, when I was so late. I felt like I was so late for everything. I don't care what comes, if it's money, if it's relationships. It's just fun to be a part of momentum. When a day in this space is like a fucking month in real life. It's so fast, man. It's crazy. So yeah, I started becoming a video editor for him, learning how to flip and make some money, looking great from NFTs. And the market, I did at the worst time. I just missed it. I was a little late, because at the time in August and shit, you could be able to mint a project, you could buy it, and then it would just double, triple, quadruple, no matter what. Now, like 90% of them, now 10% of them do, or 1%. You have to find the ones that do. Which brings me next to what I do now with them is the Ukraine war hit, and Absolute Salt had to go to his family or something to do something for Ukraine. So I'm like, okay, I don't have a role here now, because no videos are being made. So I don't want to. This is pretty new. I made like 4 videos at the time. So like 3 or 4 weeks into this thing, I'm like, I don't want to get fired or laid off, whatever the term may be.
And I'm kind of a little confused. The videos would be consistent of what? Consistent
of weekly updates. What he would do, he would do weekly market updates, weekly.
And you would edit these videos.
Yeah, just simple edits. Just like he would send me a couple, like broken up into 7 different parts, 20 to 30-minute long videos, which I've told him to shorten. But so it would break it up into different categories and whatnot, and just edit them together, and just cut the silences, the flubs, and all the ums, and the stuttering, and make it cohesive. Like nothing crazy, no like quick, like fucking crazy shit edits, but just the simple edit form. Add some cool graphics and stuff, like funny memes and shit, and throw some good music in there. 100,000 in Ash Nova for some little promo for myself as the theme song. So So that's what that consisted of, and still consists of when he does videos. And then the Ukraine war happened, and he had to go do that. I had to fulfill what I needed to. I didn't want to get fired, so I didn't want to hold up a position at this exclusive group. It's only 16 people. I was the last hire. I was the 16th. And someone may need that position, so I don't want to just be here like, hey, here's my status as the Ascendance guy, and when I'm not doing anything. So I figured time to go to Twitter again and try to connect with more people, try to do what provides value for our pass holders. But I'll do it. I'll get the projects. I want to reach out, seek more value of whitelists. I want to see if I could collaborate, network, and introduce them into our world, get their community into our world, and that's called a collaboration manager's job. And the biggest projects got back to me, and they're like, yeah, you from the group, sure. I'm like, cool. And then it turns out I did it pretty well, and they hired me full time as their lead collaboration manager. So it's another way for me to make more connections in the virtual world from people all around the world, taking Discord voice chats with these people from Singapore, from Malaysia, Australia, Amsterdam, New Zealand, in the music NFTs, regular these tech savvy projects, these art projects, these e-commerce NFT projects, just because of the value of our pass holders by the people who are part of our community are worth thousands for other communities, because they are known, they're quality people, and they're known to mint, and we provide them a lot of engagement. So if you get us, you get a lot of followers, you get a lot of retweets, the things that matter in that space. So my role is a lead collaboration manager for the Ascendants, and I bring in more projects for the group and get to meet some of the coolest people and the best people I've ever met. I never met them. I never seen their face, and it's so weird, but they're so cool. They don't want to. The term is called doxed. So if you dox yourself, that means you show your face. That's usually a tell if a project is legit, because if you're undoxed, it means there's a lot of weird shit going on.
Yeah.
So a lot of these people just like to remain undoxed because they don't want to show their face in this space. It's more of an unknown, mysterious thing. Whatever. Not my part. I'd show my face everywhere. It's whatever. But it's so cool and weird to meet these people, and some of I would consider them my best friends, and I'd make fun of my friends for making Xbox friends and over Halo and shit. Like, I don't even have a girlfriend on Xbox. But the more I'm starting to understand the virtual world of relationship building, it's these people they just want to hang, and everybody's the fucking same. You have accents, and I mean, this is no news to us, but it's weird when you're doing business with them on that level too. It's like everybody has these accents of different cultures, and everybody wants the same thing, and the good ones, the good people. And it's such a cool space. I urge everybody to learn a little bit more about the Web3 space, or just to get yourself involved with a new community. Get out of your own shell of the same people and same shit you've been around, and explore, because that's how you evolve. I think your soul is to, and slow down time for yourself, is to meet more people and explore different communities, virtual or non-virtual. And that Web3 space is fucking unreal, man. How quickly it moves, and how quickly you can make a name for yourself, make some money, make some art, and combine your strengths. Because, I mean, listen, I'm not, my role in this isn't a musician, but there's so much more opportunity coming for me as an artist and a musician because all these Web 2 people, these labels, these managers, they need Web 3 people to help them. So if Australia needs promotion for their festival that's becoming an NFT festival, and they reach out to me, they're going to fly me out.
That's sick, dude.
To play the festival as well.
Yeah.
These are things that are happening.
So how can one even just get because it sounds like the thing is you just need to hop right in and talk to the community and just see where it goes.
And it's still early. There's the thing with the Web3 space is that, the modern time we live in, with social media and the way that everybody is, and how fast everything moves, it seems as if everybody is already involved, when in reality, no fucking body is involved. And to be involved, I don't mean, I have a Coinbase account and my friend told me to buy like $100 worth of Bitcoin, so I'm in the NFT world. No, I mean, you are active in Discord with communities. You're building relationships. You're losing money because you're trying to figure out how to buy an NFT or flip it, and you realize that this isn't a good time to do it. You're realizing, you're learning, you're asking questions because you're not afraid to. It's still very early. Whoa.
I have no idea what dropped.
Someone farted?
That's a weird fart.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, by doing this, you realize that this is still so early. It's actually just this facade that everybody's involved and nobody is, and there's still so much room to be. This space has so much to grow. It just goes so fast. So it makes it seem like it's been around forever and you're too late, but you're not.
It's so wild, dude, your story and hearing it to here, and I had no idea it was gonna shift to this route, dude. How so you're doing this full time now, like this NFT space, or
I'm putting as much effort into that as I am in my music and other video needs with friends and another real estate thing that I do. So as much time I'm a media creator for a real estate company, because just to learn more about the market, and I want to buy a house, right? So
yeah, of course, I want to get into real estate too. Yeah.
Right. So to learn how to be around some of the best in that business and be a media guy for them, and to make some videos, their social media, and to be able to make your own schedule, like make some money on the side, like with that, to be able to fund your music while shit's like going like this, to give you more time to do things and not being locked down by somebody telling you what to do. I was always wanted to be in a situation financially where I'm in charge of my own schedule. Like I'll wake up, I'll do my real estate things for a couple hours. Then I'll go straight into the NFT space. I'll take my calls, 3, 4, 5 calls a day with people trying to lock in some things, and then I'll spend my nights doing music, or vice versa, whatever it may be. And then when I was learning the NFT space, I would be up until 3, 4 in the morning. Girlfriend being so mad at me, and like everybody said, just take a break. And friends like, what are you doing? Like my dad just take a fucking break. He's like, no. I just went in. I learned. I knew nothing about the NFT space. Just went in fearless and just stayed motivated for just the fear of being static, So yeah, it's crazy. Like the how everything is shifted to that as well, and I make time for it all by just doing it because it all excites me. But there are times, as being an artist, you're not excited to do your shit, so you have to let it speak to you when it does. And so the whole thing, the whole world in life is a push and pull of things, and to just capitalize at the moment when you feel motivated to do something. So that's what I've been doing for that.
Greg, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. You're one of the most interesting people I think I've had on the podcast so far. Your story is fucking crazy, and I feel like honestly I've just been like a sponge here, just soaking it all in.
Awesome, man.
I wanna slow it down a bit because we are getting pretty close to the end of the podcast. But
gotcha.
Definitely, bro, you are more than welcome to come on again.
Sure.
Bro. It would be crazy to have you on. It'd be crazy even just to have a podcast about the whole NFT space and how it affects everything. Because I have so many questions running into my brain.
Me too.
But we could sit here and talk for like 5 hours.
I know.
I'm not even playing. I want to kind of slow it down a little bit, maybe get a little bit more philosophical and end off the podcast with a couple of just regular questions.
Let's go.
So outside of the NFT space, outside of the music space, what do you do to kind of like, get away from everything? Because I feel that's so important, especially like, because, you're talking about working, you're talking about, your parents, your girlfriend being like, yo, take a break. And it's hard because even like right now with the project that I'm working on now, June in Jersey, I'm working like 10 a.m.
Right.
and then leaving here at 2 a.m.
You get it.
What I mean? And it's even funny, like last night, no, it was 2 nights ago, I knew I had to make some reels for Instagram, and I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't fall asleep. So I was just like, what am I gonna do? Just sit here and jerk off? No, I'm gonna do some work and like get it done, and then when I fall asleep, I fall asleep. Sure. And then 4 o'clock in the morning comes around, and then you're like, oh shit, I better get some sleep. Yeah. And then you wake up and wanting to do the whole thing. Yeah. So again, back to my question.
You're right though. I feel that. I feel that. We all need sleep though. It's crazy.
Yeah. So what do you do to get away from everything?
The answer for that is the reason why I was late today.
So what were you doing?
I was playing paddleball.
Sick.
So my family, my dad and my grandpa, the sport of paddleball. If people don't know what this sport is, it's a New York, New Jersey, now in Florida sport, that inner city sport, handball, like that nobody really understands unless you know what it is. The big walls you see in New York and Manhattan and Queens, that's paddleball usually, racquetball. Paddleball is different than racquetball. It's different racket and whatnot. But so it's been in my family for years. My dad was, we play again, but at the time in the 80s, 90s, one of the top players in the whole game on MSG channel, like on the sports, like ESPN stuff, like him and in the heyday of paddleball, he was one of the great ones. And
Wait,
my dad.
Oh, no way. What's your dad's name?
Greg Scarlotta.
Oh, shit. Okay,
but nobody knows the sport.
Right.
So you'll find him on the paddleball website, but
Right.
it's not like you could type in like Babe Ruth and you'll find him everywhere. But I'm proud of him for that. And my grandpa was a great player too. He retired playing. He's like 90, like almost. So he's like, oh, my fucking shoulder. So I never played the sport growing up. I always played soccer, baseball, all this shit. And my dad always tried to get me to play, and I just, none of my friends would want to play that, all that shit. I don't know what it is.
And paddleball is against the wall, or
against
is it
the wall?
Like, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So you have a big one wall, not the shit, not like in an indoor facility where you have the squash, like 4 walls, like right. You have one wall in front of you, boundaries, usually singles or doubles. You have a teammate if it's doubles. There's a big line separating in the middle. You and your partner serve the ball, has to go over the line and alternate hitting it, and if it bounces twice or it goes out, you lose the point. Similar to tennis type of stuff, and very similar to racquetball and squash, and just another racket sport, but more niche, less people know about it, more progressive metal, more progressive rock thing to do. And so my dad was one of the top guys, and been in my family for years. And when I was young, I went to a couple of tournaments when I was like 5 or 6. Now I see the pictures; it's so funny because I'm playing with all these guys now, and girls, and I never had any interest in it. And then over the years, he had surgeries, and he had to stop playing and whatnot. He came back for a little bit, got to the finals of the biggest tournament, and then lost. But just to be able to, I witnessed that when I was like 13, so I started to under 12, so I started to understand it. We flew down to Florida for it. It was cool. Different balls. It was a different ball at the time, so the sport changed over the years. And and when I graduated from school, and that when I was trying to figure shit out again with myself and 100,000, as graceful as this whole story sounded, it was fucking hard. I had to reinvent my whole life again. So I had some time to learn how to do things. So my dad was grumpy as shit, and always a grumpy dude, but loved the guy. And he was extra grumpy. He was hurting shit. He was hurting his knees, his back, and shit, and couldn't play ball. He wasn't play ball for years. So I was like, I got some time on my hands. I'm going to learn how to play paddleball, and you're gonna teach me. And he's like, I can't play. I'm like, fuck it, you are. And then I give him so much credit. He got surgery, the knee replacement. He did everything he had to do to be fit and to do this family tradition that he always wanted to do with me. We always had a great relationship, but this made it to the nth degree. A year preparation of him surgery and me helping out and me learning in the meantime of him just coaching me, because you coach by one of the best in the sport or whatever the thing you're doing to do it. It's cool. You want to listen. It's cool that it's in the family. So it's a very small sport. Nobody really understands, but it's still cool. And so just to be coached by that and to learn and just be horrible for a while, but I'm athletic to a degree, so I picked it up pretty quickly and started playing together. We started doing shit and started losing with like playing pickup games around the town. And I'll never forget when in West Orange, New Jersey, my backyard courts pretty much. I went there one day on a day I don't normally go, and there were these old guys there playing. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to hit the ball by myself and get laughed at by these guys. I walked on the court, I started hitting the ball, and there's a small ball, it's called. Now they play with the big ball, but the small ball is the old school one from the 80s, 90s, and whatnot. So that's all I had. I had this wooden paddle that he gave me, if they don't use those anymore. And the guys on the other side, they heard the ball, because when you play over these years, you know the sound of it. And they heard the racket, and then they peek over, like, what the fuck are you doing, kid? No kids play this sport anymore. Like, what is that? Is that a small ball you're playing? Like, yeah. He's like, what's your name? I was like, Greg. He's like, Greg what? I was like, Scarlata. The guy turns around and he goes, guys, we got a Scarlata in the house.
That's
I'm
wild.
like, what the fuck? What do you? He's like, I played with your dad, your grandpa, your whole life. You had the viola and rock and roll. That's where they used to play it in New York. And I'm like, holy shit. So I start playing with these guys. I'm fucking horrible. These are like 70s, 80s,
Word.
60s year old like men. And I'm fucking they're kicking my ass. I don't know how to play this game. And I always say I get along better with older people than people our age, but these guys are my family, man. So I guess that's where it all started. And then we just kept going. I started to realize how important it is for my family and my legacy and my family to take this sport as far as I could do it, and me be as good as I could do it. So my dad and I could win our first tournament and then just feel great. So long story short, it was a long story, but to make it short,
Nah, dude, I'm here.
we wind up I started to get better. He started to get healthier. He started to get better again. And we play our first tournament. We lose immediately, but we played pretty well. We just got one of the best teams. And these are the pros. So like there are open tournaments where you could just play at whatever level you are. So it's like a bracket. Seed 1 plays the lowest seed and all this shit. So we're playing one of the top teams. We're not seeded, but people know who he is, and they're like, oh fuck. So he's doing great. I'm sitting there just like fucking hitting the ball everywhere, and we lose the first round. It was fun, great time. You could tell that him and I, that was a moment. It was like one of his bucket list things to do for his fatherhood, for me, for being a dad. So we're doing it. I love it. I'm diving everywhere. My knee pads, like his old knee pads, and like shit, I'm bleeding. Fucking this sport, it's so taxing on your body, and it was great. We kept going, and then, kept going meaning like one more tournament, and then it turns out he got reintroduced to his old mixed doubles partner, because you could play a man and a woman, and she's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, women players of all time, and we go to the big tournament, the AF, the championship of pro tournament, and this is in the summer of 2019 or so, 18,
okay.
Forget, and 19, and then we this is in Far Rockaway, New York, Beach 9th Park, in like kind of Queensy, Long Island area on the beach, and me and him, we lose pretty. It was a big tournament, so you play with the men's and they have the women's, then you have the mix. So me and him lose first round, whatever. So he linked up with his partner again, and they were one of the greatest, if not the greatest, in my opinion, mixed doubles team ever. And the greatest player who's ever lived, his name's Robert Sostra. You can look him up. He's in the Hall of Fame and stuff, and he's for racquetball and stuff. So you can't find any names in paddleball, but he's the greatest who's ever played. And my dad heard these names. It's so weird because I heard the names of these people my whole life. I see all the hundreds of trophies in the basement and shit. I never knew what they were. I'd heard the stories of this Robert Sasha, Richie Miller, all the biggest names, and I'm playing with these guys and I'm seeing them, and I'm scared I'm gonna play them in the tournament. But we never got to that point because we just lost right away. But he was moving up he started playing. They started winning immediately. Just going up, winning game after game after game, and then all of a sudden, long story short, I'm first of all, to bridge this into one of the probably the last part of this, is that I meet this girl, and she, so she could tell you this better than me, but she's this pretty damn good tennis player. She doesn't like to talk about it. She like represented Puerto Rico for Fed Cup, and she was a soft pro player. And
what's her name?
Ariana.
Okay, cool.
And went to full ride, like Louisville, like the top tennis player there, and incredible. So there was this girl. I kept hearing stories about this tennis player girl that whatever. It turns out it was her, and that my dad made it to the finals, and he's playing Rob Sostra and his partner Kathy, who is known as the greatest team ever, the greatest men player, and if not one of the greatest women's. But so he made it to the finals, and it was, you could tell. And I'm sitting there, and I'm more nervous like watching him play than ever. And then right before he play, this girl comes, I get introduced to this girl because her father and my father played together years ago, and then she was like, "Who's Lisa, his partner? Who's this old dude that Lisa's playing with?" Because nobody knows my dad anymore because he has been around, and she's been around in the paddleball scene for a little bit. So So my dad introduced her dad introduced her to him because he's their old friend, and I was introduced to her because paddleball and all this weird shit in this moment. So they're about to play, and he fucking wins the whole thing. He wins the tournament and
Holy
fucking
shit.
crying everywhere. It was beautiful, and he's just like hurt. He's like he can't really walk. He's walk at the time. He was just limping, and he just bleeding everywhere, diving. Just like 60-year-old dude, just fucking going nuts. Just incredible. It's like a Rocky story, man. Seriously, it's fucking incredible. The crowd's like, yeah, like it's like remember from back in the day, and it's like to represent the old guys, you know. Fucking wins the whole thing, him and his partner. And then we got connected, my girlfriend and I. We started, now girlfriend at the time, it's just a paddleball girl she's the greatest paddleball player of this generation. But so I started getting better and better, started playing with her more because I wanted to play with her. And we ultimately started playing together, and we linked up as partners, and we got a good relationship. So now she's my girlfriend in this sport and partner in the sport. And me and my dad still going at her, and I won. We have a tournament next week because we're reigning champs from the last week. It's the biggest tournament. We won the whole thing. We beat the same people who my dad beat, the greatest players ever lived in his. We beat them to win the whole thing. So I followed my dad's footsteps, and her and I. It was so cool. So me and my dad are still on the path to win the whole thing, but we got up to the semis. To one of the big tournaments, but we were almost there. And he only has a few more left because he's hurting. But we're going. It's cool, man.
Dude.
So that's what I do outside of the music space and the NFT space to help me cope with life.
This is great.
And it only hurts my body because my hips are now torn. I have torn hip labrums and my herniated disc. I gotta get surgery. Fucking, I'm just like my dad right now. I gotta get fucking surgery everywhere. I'm broken. I pulled my gooch this morning. Believe that shit? If Bellman watches this, yeah, I literally pulled my fucking gooch. I'm sitting there. We're playing. We haven't played in a while because she's been working a lot. So I'm like, we're playing a little hard and harder than usual for the crew that's in Queens. And I'm sitting the first fucking game, and I'm like, I think I just pulled my gooch. I'm like serving the ball. I jump up to fucking get it. I land wrong. I twist, and it's all because everything in my hips are like they're like literally torn. So they're kind of floating around. They're not like linked right. So I got to get some dude to come in and like relink my hips. Yeah. So that's causing my back to get all weird and not align right, and probably my gooch. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, I can't move. I can't jump. I can only just. I gotta stop, so I kept playing. It was getting worse and worse, and I felt like just my asshole was just completely just torn in half, and down my legs. It just, you know, when you pull a muscle, you it's the same feeling in your gooch. Imagine that.
Oh my
Good
God.
times. So I pulled my gooch today. Yeah.
Dude, Greg, you are such a lit, insane, and just inspiring person, dude. You're freaking, you're wild. I love it, dude. I fucking love it.
I like life sometimes, man. It's pretty good.
Dude, I have one more question.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Keep going. We got like forever, right? What do you got?
My last question for you, dude.
I want to ask you questions too. We'll save it for another time.
Yeah, we'll save it for another time. We could do another podcast whenever. Let me finish up this project with June in Jersey, bro, and we'll get another one popping for sure.
We'll get another one popping. June in Jersey.
There is so much. There's just so much in this podcast that I just not.
Good luck editing this.
Yeah, I did not expect. Well, thankfully, the podcast is 100% raw, so there's not too much editing to do.
Cool.
But I think when I put up the TikToks and the reels, I'm just gonna be like, wow, it's gonna be a lot. I'm gonna be like, I don't think people will believe. Like, if I cut up all the stuff into
Same
like
one.
I'd be like, they'd be like, who is this guy?
Schmuck. Fuck this kid.
My biggest question, and this is usually what I ask people at the end of the podcast, is at your point where you're in your journey, where you felt like nothing was gonna work out, and you maybe would have to give up on your dream. What advice would you give yourself in that moment if it happened? And if you were never at a point like that, what advice would you give someone who is at that point?
For sure. One thing I don't agree with from Gaga was that she said that you're not meant to be in this industry if you doubt yourself for a second. And that hit me hard because it made me think that, because I doubt myself quite frequently. And it made me think, that's her story. Well, at the time, it made me think, well, I can't doubt myself. I'm doubting myself right now. Should I not be an artist? Am I not a real artist? Whatever that may mean. Am I not meant for this? Am I not meant to do this or be creative in whatever medium or sense? Turns out that's her story. My story is unique to me. Your story is unique to you. Her story is unique to her. This water bottle, how it got here, that story is unique to that water bottle. You gotta work with your own strengths. So when I doubt myself, it's what I always try to do is whatever the feeling, if it's feeling heavy that day, if somebody's going through depression, I don't fully get that, so I don't want to come across like I'm trying to tell some people who suffer from depression from someone who doesn't how to handle their struggles. But for me, there's always one thing to do in the day. There's always one thing you can do. It doesn't have to be a full creative output. You could shift your situation to do one thing for that situation. That doesn't have to be a creative output, because if we're talking about creativity, sometimes it feels way too heavy to write that song or finish that part. But maybe you could make a post on social media that day that makes awareness to your circle or your fans or whatever that you're how you're doing. Like, it's just an update. Maybe you could be a good neighbor to your neighbor, or a good dog owner. You could be good to your dog that day. Which you could do one thing outside of the creative space that advances you soulfully, wholesomely, as a man, as a woman, as an artist. That ultimately funnels the whole driving force of forward momentum. If you sit there and ask yourself why I cannot do these things, or why can I do this stuff, if you spend so much time doing that, you're losing out on practicing on the 101 human nature things of just being a good person, or trying to the people around you that respect you the most. So to answer your question, because a lot of times I talk so I could figure it out myself, but if I'm doubting myself, because I do, I just try to go back to the square one, the grassroots of who I am and what made me what I am, and that's trying to be a good community member, being good to my family, being good to my girlfriend, my dog, whatever, my cats, and start with that. Go into a different part of my house to eat breakfast, to try to just take a breath and look at the sun a different way, because that will ultimately fuel the creativity when you have a breath. And it'll soften the weight. It'll lighten the weight and the heavy feeling of that. Oh, I gotta. If I don't do this now, wait, I don't have any time. I'm gonna die, and nothing's ever gonna be good. I'm never gonna reach that. You gotta get that clarity, my friend. You gotta just experiment with 101 basic human level things. Make your bed that morning. Brush your teeth 10 seconds longer so you can look in the mirror and just look at yourself. Simple shit. That's the advice I'd give, because that shit set me up to be able to do everything that I'm talking about. To meet these cats, to meet everybody here, to be a part of this cool community. What up, motherfucker?
Greg, I want to thank you so much. It was an absolute blessing and honor to have you on the podcast,
you too.
Dude.
Sorry I was late.
No,
dude, sorry. I'm just trying to break my gooch over
dude,
here.
Dude, so worth it. So worth it, bro.
Thank you.
Dude, let the people know where they could find you online, or anything that you're working on, any projects you want to shout out, and now is the time.
For sure. My name's Greg Sgar. Sgar is my artist name. Find me at Greg Sgar, GreggSgar on socials. Sgar, Sgar is my artist name. Search that anywhere on any streaming platforms. You'll find the music. 100,000 at OHT Band. Ash Nova, my new alt electronic dance duo, if you like Rufus the Soul, Bob Moses, that world mixed with 70s songwriting like Fleetwood Mac, Pink Floyd. More of that to come. There's a lot of good shit coming off of the #1 hit. You could follow that at the Ash Nova, the THE Ash ASH Nova, NOVA, all platforms. If you're into NFT space, into the Web3, look up The Ascendants on Twitter. Ascendants, ASCENDANTS _NFT. You'll find our alpha group there. And if you want to, just to learn more about the NFT space, hit me up anywhere, anytime. I love to learn people about this because it's fucking awesome. And Ayoo, chill, bitch. Thank you. for having me,
Dude.
Luis. I'm glad we got to talk a little bit more than we usually do because we got to know each other a little bit more.
Dude, of course.
Now,
It's a
give me that
fucking
water
pleasure.
bottle. Give me that water bottle.
Fucking pleasure, dude. Guys, and y'all already know the business. Ayoo Chill, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Funny enough, I'm adding I said this at every podcast so far. We recently made an OnlyFans.
Nice.
For like as a joke. The first person to subscribe to the OnlyFans, free stickers, probably a free t-shirt. We'll figure it out. Whoever you are, the lucky person.
That's fun,
Dude, thank you so much, dude. Let's
Thank
get the
you,
fuck
bro.
out of here, dude.
Good shit, man. Thank you for having me.
Dude, this was great, dude. Man, thank you so much, bro. How was it, bro?
Fucking great.
Oh, dude, that was freaking
Most fun I've had.